Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is the 11th of August. My sound is all screwed up. I hope you guys heard that because I couldn't hear it. But markets are a little bit higher and we're starting to see some changes in the market. So let's go into the charts. Oh, man. Excuse me. And Win says, oh, maybe you should set the timer for 7:25 and then you'd be early. No, I'm going to keep it to 7. That's when I'm supposed to be here. I'm just, I just need to do better. That's all. I don't know if it really makes a difference to the number of people that are able to catch the beginning part. You know, a couple of you guys are able to catch this beginning part. So anyways,
block sell
to the charts. Boom, boom, boom. Footprints. Okay, so yesterday, we're spend a lot of time talking about yesterday. So yesterday we're coming out, markets were mildly higher, had a pretty big downturn that I was able to take advantage of, and then we pushed up later in the day. Now on this move down, the NASDAQ got hit particularly bad, and we're starting to see a hint that there is a, what do we put this? A rebalancing underway in the indexes. The technology sectors, which have really been the only positive performers, have been giving up some of their gains. Okay, ultimately, we closed the day on the highs, but it wasn't really much higher than the overnight session. And then in the overnight session, we opened back up at where we opened in the regular session. And now in the overnight session, we have extended significantly higher. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that might, oh, not quite. Intraday high is 33.95. So we're very, very close to all-time highs. Very, very close. Okay. Now, meanwhile, in the treasuries have been seeing a real bender down. I mean, look, they're doing it as we speak, or already a little bit late to the trade. There might be a pullback. I might want to try and take it short again. And you're going to see here, there's some steepening going on. So the 5-year did not move as much as the 30-year. Okay. Meanwhile, oil's up a little bit. Oil's doing okay, and that's mostly due to supply and so forth. But then the other big one that we got to pay attention to here is gold. Gold below 2,000. Gold below 2,000. So that whole thing has given up. And now we come over here and look at the currencies. The dollar showing some weakness overnight once again. So there appears to be some rotation in the market. I think the first hint that we get it was that the tech was weak yesterday on the downturn. Now we're higher overnight. I'm not sure that I necessarily see really good reasons to be higher overnight. That might mean that we might give some of this up, but you know, stuff's going on. For instance, Donald Trump was talking about capital gains, tax cut, things like that. I don't really think that's what's moving this market, but you know, there's lots of things going on there. I do see though that there's that dollar weakness, and anytime that we get dollar weakness, that the indexes move higher, right? And then meanwhile, the treasuries are coming down. Now, I think that some of that in the treasuries could be just the treasury refunding and everything. But it could also be expectations of inflation. So we are starting to see a shift in the market. And I was kind of thinking, okay, if we're going to get inflation here, then you could see a situation where the indexes move up, the treasuries move down, and there's some rotation in the market, but not everything completely lines up. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to be on our toes. And that also means that even though we might be catching some really, really good macro trades, we are going to have to be really careful about where we take our profits because, say we catch a short like we did yesterday in the S&P 500, might have limited downside. Man, this really moved down in the treasuries. It was a real slaughter. I mean, we were moving up. We were moving up last week, and it is just down, down, down. Now, Zero Hedges thinks that the S&P futures hit all-time highs on stimulus, vaccine hopes, and gold and silver tumble. I mean, that's the one that I find particularly odd. Is like, okay, if it was just dollar weakness pushing us up again, then you would expect that gold would continue to stay elevated, but it's not. So that's interesting, right? Now, a lot of what's going on in gold may just be technical in nature, so let's keep that in mind. So we'll keep the NASDAQ up here on our DOMs. It's this little extra room that we've created. But I'm thinking maybe we'll move it over here, right? So I want my eyes, don't want it to be so central on my, because it moves so much and it's just a little distracting. I will also note that we are just excessively high in the overnight session for the equities. So that's basically where we're at on all of that. Somebody asking me, is the market data charged straight from your trading account or through your bank separately at AMP? It is taken from your trading account. That's kind of why I've been having a problem.
Winston's mom says, gold couldn't hold all its recent gains on Friday with both real U.S. interest rates and the U.S. dollar working against the metal, said strategist John Reed at the Minjing Industries World Gold Council.
Hi, Celine. You know what? We need to fix our audio here. So hold on. Come in here. Okay, so that was closed.
Salim L says hi.
We do have some news here. PPI. Oh my, okay, yeah. Ooh, it's higher than forecast. Okay. Oopsies. Well, we might have missed that one, but man, so the inflation not only is there higher expectations of inflation, but it's showing up in the PPIs. Now I should be able to hear you.
Winston's mom says, combined with the recent run higher in gold and lower in the dollar, adds Samir Samana, Wells Fargo Investments, it all adds up to some really stretched trends that needed a breather. Kevin Wimmer says, wow, I didn't watch your stream for a week and come back and you are using an NQ DOM. Finally.
Yeah. Well, so what happened was my workspace just got like blown away. And when I redid everything, For some reason, I had found that I had a lot more space than I thought, so I thought I would add an NQ DOM on there. And the NQ has been um, pretty. There's been some, like I say in the title, there's some market changes going on, and the NQ seems to be a really critical part about it. So having the NQ up, I think, has been really useful. But I think we'll change this one around depending on what it is that we need to look at, right? Depending on what we need to look at.
Vlad Stolyarov says inflation when crisis ends. Winston's mom says good morning, Kevin Wimmer. Kevin Wimmer says morning. Vlad Stolyarov says recession followed by depression is another thing.
We got to be careful with the inflation theme because what you're going to see is inflation short term, but possibly still deflation in the long term.
Winston's mom says gold investing ETF funds globally saw outflows on Friday, breaking a streak of 30 daily inflows according to Bloomberg as giant gold-backed ETF the SPDR Gold Trust. Uzi Knesset says Lottie can't have things recover. That'd be real bad for Biden. Winston's mom says NYSE ACA, GLD, saw profit taking shrink its total shares in issue by 0.5% to need 1,262 tons of bullion backing.
I tell you,
Kevin Wimmer says oppression is my profession, Captain Trant.
Yeah. One of the things that has been on my mind a lot lately has been that we were predicting that we would see the coronavirus numbers overall decline. Like we already had seen several weeks ago, the peak of the new cases, and we knew that hospitalizations and deaths would follow through with it. And since that time, we've been proven correct. And all of these economic analysts that were looking at that data and saying that it was flipping were 100% correct. But you would never know it from the news, would you? They're completely ignoring the fact that it's basically over. Well, it's not basically over because we got the school openings, and I'm sure that you'll see a spike of cases when schools open, but I don't expect it to be as significant. Yeah, there's a lot of really weird things going on in the politics. It's hard, I was thinking, I don't know why, because it hasn't been the first time that I've been like, oh, don't talk about politics. When somebody got mad at me about it yesterday, but like there was something about that whole thing that I didn't really get across yesterday that I feel like is important to point out. Is like, if you don't like politics, don't trade right now. Like, straight up, don't trade. It's not my fault that the government has basically completely taken over the economy. We're not like a managed economy like China. I kind of dislike it when people kind of use that hyperbole, but it's certainly going in that direction, isn't it? And with the way that the Federal Reserve is buying, like literally buying corporate debt now, is pretty crazy and alarming to me, and it puts the government in the driver's seat. And you literally cannot. The government is basically like the only thing that matters to markets now. Like, they are markets. So if you don't understand the politics, how are you supposed to understand where the market's going to go? Because the only thing the main thing that matters to fund allocations these days is what the government's going to do. It's crazy, right? But that's just the way that it is. Dun, 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 dun.
Salim L says there is resurgence in Europe though. Winston's mom says I have been watching the Sturgis rally and all the bikers. Once upon a time, I thought it was wild and woolly. Now it's a bunch of moms and dads wandering
I saw
around
a lot
without
of people
masks
worried
looking
about
at
that.
bikes. Uzi Knesset says Democrats slowly coming around to schools reopening as teachers' unions express their worry about their voter production facility being at such low capacity. Vlad Stolyarov says yeah, that's scary. Salim L says all I know about politics is I love Trump.
Well, the whole thing is getting weird. So the other thing is, and I don't know if I want to focus on this one. Well, we have to talk about it. The thing is I know that people don't want to talk about this, and I'm gonna say things that this is one of those things where I have to say something that both sides doesn't like. Okay, we are starting to see in politics, I'm seeing a shift. So it used to be all hysteria all the time, right? Everything going on. It just looks to me like a mass hysteria after a mass hysteria. And I notice how the Democrats keep it going. It's like when one of them like pops, there's already something else there to distract them. So people never have to face the reality that they were involved in a mass hysteria. Well, now what we're seeing is what I would call an armored mass hysteria. Okay. So I think that Black Lives Matters, it could be considered an armored mass hysteria. Okay. So what I mean by armored is that you really can't argue against the mass hysteria without being personally attacked, right? So if I was to go in and I was to say, look, when you look at the statistics and some of the studies that we've done on this and everything else of that nature, you'll find that Black individuals are not more likely to be killed by the police, that altercations between police and criminals are at all-time lows, and that things are really good and improving all of the time in that arena, up until the point at which, the whole Black Lives Matters thing started. So really the argument that they're making, it's not true, and it's a mass hysteria. Or if we want to get more specific, this thing in Chicago, the people were told something incorrect about an altercation between police and a suspect that was shot. They were lied about the nature of that interaction with police and the guy, and people went out and completely destroyed Chicago. And yeah, it was a hysteria because it was based on complete misinformation. Um, and it just absolutely fits all of the characteristics of a mass hysteria. But can you point that out to people without getting attacked? No, if you point it out, people will say you're racist or whatever, right? Well, I'm seeing another one that's emerging on the right, and it really bothers me. Um, just because it's a hysteria, and I think that if you use hysteria in politics, like I said, hysterias have a tendency of collapsing, and the Democrats always have something behind the scenes to, when the bubble bursts, to distract you with. But I this thing that I'm seeing on the right, I don't think it does, and I think that it's probably poor strategy to focus on it. But and this is where, probably I make a couple of people mad, but this whole Q thing that Donald Trump is the front line in a worldwide battle between globalist pedophile elites and patriots. It's total. The whole thing was a hoax. Okay, some guy got on 4chan, made a post. It's a hoax, and you got all of these people going on talking about child trafficking. So, like, can you come out and tell them that it's a hysteria, that human trafficking is doing better, like it's being reduced more than ever, and that there's not like some mass wave of more human trafficking? No, you can't, because then they'll just tell you, what, are you a part of the pedophile elite? Which certainly not. But it's an armored hysteria. You get what I mean? Do you get what I mean? How do you argue with people about it? You can't. There's like, I'm not sure there's anything that I could say that could convince somebody that's involved in that hysteria that it's really a hysteria. Because I would just say, well, what do you have? Why are you against, um, trying to stop child trafficking? Right? That's the argument. Like when I will point it out to my wife, this is where it's coming from. And I was like, it's a hysteria. And she's like, well, why is that a problem? If people want to be against pedophilia, then that's their own thing. And it's true. Like, of course, we should all be against that stuff, just like we should be against systemic racism where it exists. If you can show where it actually exists, and you can make specific policies to address specific systematic inequalities. But you can't, right? You can't argue against them. It's an armored hysteria. Oh man. Salim, don't say things like that.
Salim L says the whole race riots look contrived to manipulate voters.
I think so. I mean, I think a lot of this is voter manipulation.
Uzi Knesset says there's more white people in the race riots than black ones, lol. The BLM movement started significantly different from what it wound up being. It's a white communist movement now.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's going on in Portland and Seattle is a white communist movement. Absolutely.
Salim L says NQ down I am out. Done my day.
So did you notice there again on that move down that the NQ seemed to outperform on the downside? I need to do a spread. I wonder what the correct spread would be for NQ versus ES.
Vlad Stolyarov says NQ is done on daily. Its target projection has been reached, so don't expect any rallies in NQ when they rotate out of it.
You're sending Maxwell to court. Put me in the general prison population, please. Now on the Q thing, man, Reddit is super triggered. Like they all think that it's Russians. Maybe it is. I don't know. Okay, Treasury's pulling back from that. I was kind of thinking when I saw that the number was higher than expected, I expected that the Treasury should go down, but since it was already so sold so heavily, I was a little skeptical about how far it could go, and I didn't. That's why I didn't chase it when my order screwed up. It screwed up because I had my thing set to a stop limit.
Vlad Stolyarov says casinos and cruise lines JPM up pre-market. I guess if banks lead, it's bullish day again.
Yeah, it could be because, like, again, I think we're seeing the rotation, right? So I think you'll see Nasdaq relatively flat and banks moving up. You like the NQ because it moves fast? Ugh. That just means you lose money faster, in my opinion. Anyways, to the mass hysteria thing. What does that mean to markets? Well, I think the reason why I like to talk about it is because a lot of what you're doing in markets is identifying mass hysteria, right? You want to identify some situation where the market is moving off of a piece of news and it's people acting together over a situation when that's really not the thing that matters, right? We want to be good at identifying hysterias, but then also, I mean, there are political implications to it. I don't know where that takes us. Okay, that was a pretty fast turn in the mini there. It's been forming kind of bearish. Well, I definitely see the potential for us to turn short. I don't. That time it was not quite enough, for me. I think, well, if we were to take it short, I would want to be like right here at 72. But look, we got that tail. So I don't know about that one. Day traders send U.S. producer prices soaring in July. How is that? Hmm. Oh, so good point. The year over year PPI was still negative at negative spot 4. Biggest driver of this rebound was energy goods as food prices continue to slide. Let's see. But core was up as well. Core was spot 5. However, even more stunning was a 7.8% surge in the index for portfolio management was a major factor in the advance in prices for final demand services. I see. That was a big part of why there was the PPI. Wait, so portfolio management is a contributing factor to, well, so now they turned down there. I guess I missed it. Indexes for machinery, vehicle wholesaling, automobiles, automobile parts retailing, law assistance, motor carrying, legal services, machinery, equipment parts, supplies, wholesale also moved higher. Airline passenger services decreased 7. Was that whole? This report is a lot more nuanced than the initial headline numbers would suggest.
Rainmaker SG says, "Hi Seth, your multi-time frame NT8 chart looks cool."
Right? I really like it. Especially this one over here. The top middle. I find that so useful. Well, we're coming back now to the seller break even spot. Should have gone short at 72. That sucks.
Vlad Stolyarov says the 5 a.m. stop out shorts in NQ was a genius algo plan. Vlad Stolyarov says now it just free falls.
Fell pretty quickly there, didn't it? Mohammed El Arain, consistent with strong economic recovery theme in markets this morning, yield on U.S. government bonds are notably higher across the board. The 10-year is trading at 0.62%, a level not seen in over a month.
Rainmaker SG says current S drop is due to short run.
Well,
Vlad
they're
Stolyarov
too
says I
high.
assume 11,060 as resistance. Vlad Stolyarov says I assume 11,060 as resistance.
You can only hold those levels for so long without a larger fundamental catalyst. People are going to have to take profits, right? But then the question kind of becomes, where can they hold it to? Like, I see 33.63 as a spot that buyers might try and step in again. Yeah. New Zealand revives lockdown 2 months after declaring. So now this in New Zealand, I think, is a little crazy. Like, they had 2 cases and they're going back into lockdown. What? What? You can't keep it out forever, New Zealand. It's gonna happen sooner or later.
Vlad Stolyarov says gold selling extreme.
Oh yeah, gold is just getting demolished.
Vlad Stolyarov says and it's all pre-market. Uzi Knesset says NC is a big catalyst in arguments online about COVID. They got a lot at stake.
Think so? That's interesting. I haven't really seen a whole lot, but I bet you that they're going to get more and more focus, especially if they have a real outbreak. Um, this move in gold is really wild. That is an ugly, ugly. I mean, we're at 2080. It's come down over $100 overnight. That's an excessive move. And when you come over here and you're like, the reflation
Vlad
trade
Stolyarov says means all that rally was short covering until someone actually took profits on way down.
could be. Yeah, it's kind of difficult because the the macro correlations aren't 100%, you know. They're not giving me 100% clear idea what's going on. It's a little difficult to suss out because some of these instruments have just had extreme moves and some of the movement could be just technical in nature. Diamond and Silk launch new program on Newsmax TV. Wow.
Winston's mom says Warren Buffett once said, opportunities come infrequently. When it rains gold, put out the bucket, not the thimble.
Oh, Warren. People are still kind of bearish on Warren.
Winston's mom says please take a quick second to hit the like button, thanks. 25 watching now and if Speculator Seth is at 20 likes or so, it's good for the channel.
Yeah. You know, we're doing really well today. It's a lot of people stopping in, so thank you for sharing the morning with me. Like 24 before the e-mini, before even 7 o'clock. It's a lot. I wonder if we might be able to get to 40 viewers today, especially if you guys start clicking that like button. Okay, so I'm seeing the e-mini turning back up around. So 71.25 is kind of like the hour open area that there's a little bit of battle over.
Salim L says that high gold was stressing me out because I had to buy my wife a gold belt because she got her driving license.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Well, it come down. It came down a lot.
Vlad Stolyarov says buy a gold paint.
Oh, I'm hoping that Sunday takes it in stride because it's a pretty significant drop. That's like a whole 2 weeks worth of gains just gone. I'm sure that it won't concern him because he's in it for the long term, but man,
Uzi Knesset says 79, 20 and 15 downside targets for ZB.
really. As I'm just watching this and I'm like looking for a spot to possibly get short in the treasuries and I'm just not seeing it. So one may just be that the trend is just too strong and that we just have to go with it. Haven't seen this kind of a situation since we've been looking with some of my newer stuff, so there might be situations where they are just chasing the whole way, you know? Because look at that. Like they're straight up short 15.5 there potentially. It's like as the E-mini moves up, that's the pressure comes in on them. New poll shows tight residential race in Georgia. Now they're squeezing a little bit in the treasuries.
Salim El says I am Moroccan. Women here buy all types of gold stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I don't know a whole lot about that area of the world though. 5 year. Gotta pay attention to the 5 year, right? Because it is steepening. So I guess the point is, if we're gonna move up, it's gonna be the 5 year. If we're gonna move down, it's gonna be the 30 year. So right now, the 30 just looks like they just want to keep going, doesn't it? What? Alyssa Milano hospitalized due to long hauler symptoms of coronavirus? Really? Oh, I was acutely sick in April. I still have many symptoms. I'm what they call it, long hauler. Heaviness in my chest. When her hair looks awful. Yeah, you might just be in your head though. Like you think that it's really bad, and then you'd make it really bad.
Uzi Knesset says she made some video brushing her hair after
Yeah.
a shower saying her hair falling out was a COVID symptom.
Yeah,
Deadpan
I
face.
heard about that. It's kind of weird. Gold plunges by $75 in worst decline since March.
Winston's mom says speculator Seth, have you ever seen the movie Casablanca?
Haven't seen
Humphrey
that.
Bogart, play it again, Sam. That is Morocco. I knew a woman from there and she told me such interesting stories. Uzi Knesset says if that's the case, my wife's had COVID for 16 years lol.
Oh, jeez, Uzi. When I got sick in January, and apparently it wasn't COVID-19, but when I got sick in January, it took me a long time to completely recover from it. I had like, I forget what they called it, but oh my gosh, look at that. At 15. He absorbed it though. I'm just surprised 4,500 comes in there so quickly. This is all new orders too.
Winston's mom says play it again, Sam, Casablanca, Ingrid Bergman.
Mm. Treasury is picking up a little bit. E-mini looks pointed down. Cost bases are converging, which is not something I've seen before. Like on the 30-minute or whatever.
Winston's mom says that's a clip from the movie, where Sam plays their song on the piano. It's such a pretty song.
Isn't there scenes from John Wick in Morocco? Isn't that where their mint is or whatever? Back up to 72 again. So I was all pining about, I should have gotten short at 72, but I would be back at break even. I don't think I would have taken profits on that at all. And treasuries get squeezed below
Salim L
15
says, what are
really
you
easily
drinking,
that
Seth?
time. Just water. Always water. Drink what the pros drink. Drink water. That wasn't a very... I don't think I should be a water drinking model. I didn't think I did a very good job at that. Jake Sherman tweets, not entirely sure if Wall Street is even paying attention anymore, but Morning Money Ben says it. No stimulus bill in the work. It is so scary that our financial system is so detached from reality. No one is talking. Talks have collapsed, so maybe they'll start again. They haven't.
Salim L says pro traders aren't into coffee.
I don't need that, man. Why?
Vlad Stolyarov says goodbye banks.
You think so? But like, even he tweets that, nobody cares. Is it that the market doesn't really need the stimulus? I don't know. Like, they took 14.5. I should have taken it short. He's just chasing all the way.
Winston's mom says today in history, 1912 Moroccan Sultan Malai Hafid abdicated his throne in the face of internal dissent, and 1929 Babe Ruth hit his 500th Major League home run against the Cleveland Indians.
Oh. Zero Hedge asks, a generational opportunity in commodities? He's probably right, because commodities are going to be, the dollar's getting hit, and that's where all the money's going to have to go, is into commodities, right? This is just not coming back at all, is it? In the Treasury. I didn't see a level break set up either. It's just pressure, right? They're just squeezing.
Vlad Stolyarov says sad, we created best stock market ever. NASDAQ make new record high, pre-pump Trump.
I'm surprised that there wasn't more support in, like, say, the 15 half 16 area, actually. Probably the areas of support don't really matter.
Salim L says, is that a rhythmic data feed?
I'm using CQG right now. Thinking about going back to rhythmic though. 14, 5K.
Winston's mom says there is a live cam of a baby otter named Joey that I discovered this morning.
What?
I should be doing laundry, not watching a baby otter get a bath, but if you think an alpaca is entertaining, Joey is cute.
Oh yeah, otters are. I hear ya. Otters can be mischievous. So this is. I think that I've missed it, and I just kind of have to sit here because I have no clue how far this can go.
Salim
I
L
am.
says, ooh, the best of the best. As sharp as knife.
I thought that I would have a really clear idea of where there would be twists and turns on a strong downtrend in the treasuries, but it's not turning out the way that I thought at all. It's just going and going and going. I kind of question how if the E-mini can really hold these levels with rates moving as aggressively as they are.
Winston's mom says otters are cousins to my ferrets. We have otters on our lake, but I haven't seen any yet.
Gold getting really ugly now, silver too. Is Bitcoin moving? Not, well, kind of. There was a big sell in Bitcoin from a cumulative delta perspective. Look at that. Downtick again. Well, there's a decent amount backticking into 13 half. There's your 20 almost. E-mini falling out there, finally touching the seller's break-even line. That guy's got a lot of money to go though if he's gonna come out the day ahead. There is a bunch of bill auctions and stuff today. We got a 3-year note, and we're falling like a rock. NQ is too hard to look at. Look at this. Now I can see it if I make it really, really big. Yeah, a Vista chart in NQ is
Salim
very
L
useful.
says, are you trading the open?
We might. Unfortunately, the play that I think was really best for
Winston's
me to
mom says,
play
do you
is
know the
already
professor and
done
historian
and
Alan
gone.
Lichtman and his keys to predicting the presidency? He has said that Biden has more keys in his favor than not.
Or no, there's a number of those guys that make those predictions and are always right, but they'll be, I don't know. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Seems like that Biden is still ahead in the polls, though. And I'm questioning how accurate those polls are, but his lead is enough that it's probably overcomes any of those. Hmm. Andrew Cuomo is tweeting more testing only uncovers more positives when there are positives
Salim
to
L
be
says Biden is
found.
ahead in the mafia.
In New York, daily new cases have gone down as testing has gone up. But they're going down pretty much everywhere now. Cuomo. Certainly overall in the United States.
Salim L says Biden asterisk.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just sitting here and I'm like, all of these things that you guys are worried about, coronavirus and stuff, and I'm like, I really think you should be more concerned about just making Biden president and what a disaster he would be as president. Let's see here. What's Jake saying here now? I'm not sure if you can hear me over the nonsense your consultants spew to you, but the Capitol is empty. If you're paying someone who is telling you there will be a bill this week, then fire them immediately. The amount of absolute crap that consultants feed hedge funds and investors is amazing. Amazing that these consultants get away with it, and amazing that hedge funds don't fire them when their base cases come up completely bogus. I'm not so sure, Jake, that the market is as concerned about there being a stimulus as you think there should be. I'm going to tell him that. Mm, 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 mm. Hmm. So do you notice how this line here in the E-mini is kind of holding around 67? So it's like right where they had everybody, that kind of break even line is acting as a little bit of support because eh, it's so interesting. Yeah. It does seem to me like some longs defending there. It seems incredibly greedy to me, but um I am really uncertain about a lot of things right now. So it's hard for me to make a read on why they would want to hold that as badly as they do.
Uzi Knesset says well 20 holding for now.
Mm, yep. Pretty good catch though. Oh wait, didn't read that one.
Winston's mom says the president is awake and tweeting that John Bolton is dumb, one of the dumbest people he has met, and sadly he says he has met plenty. Someone take his phone away, lol. Winston's mom says good morning, Jackson O'Leary, are you a Young supporter? My son was interested in Young and still is. I believe in my son is not named Winston but my Winston Ferret was.
Man, I tried to tell the Yang supporters, I tried to warn them about the way things were going with their campaign, but they just didn't want to listen. I was like, look, listen, like this, you can't. If this is how the debates are going to go, he doesn't stand a chance. And they're like, oh, I thought his performance was great. It's okay. He's a business guy, not a politician. He doesn't understand. He doesn't know better. So a pretty big bid there at 26 too. Maybe now we finally get a pullback. The volume is a little interesting in the 10-year though. So if it comes back up, there's going to be a little bit of should we say drama. There's going to have to be a little bit of a fight up because somebody in this spread trade is going to have to lose some money.
Jackson O'Leary says I just think he has good ideas that can push us forward as a country.
So let's how should I approach this? I mean, the thing is, I wish I would normally be like really interested in arguing with you about it, but since he lost, there's not really much of a point, is there? We could talk about the this whole idea of what do we call it? Basic universal income. That is kind of pertinent to what's been going on, isn't it? Because uh and I think it highlights one of the problems that I have with basic universal income that um I don't think is discussed very often, right? One of the reasons that markets work is because they align people's incentives with what is good for the overall economy, right? Like it's the same thing with the democratic system, generally speaking. Of course, there's going to be different people that have different interests that might conflict with each other, right? And then they kind of have to battle it out. But ultimately, in democracy, the ones the money and the largest number of people will win. And when you get a situation where the money has concentrated in too few of a hands, then the tendency has been that the people will vote out and switch it because the number of people overwhelms the money. Okay. But it's the same thing with the money itself and the investing. And so what you're seeing right now is that because so many people are being paid that extra unemployment insurance, they don't have to face reality, right? They don't have to go back to work. They don't have to see the economy for the way that it is. And the result has been an astounding stock market bubble. All because all of this money has been coming in from the government. And the reality is that we just took on a buttload of debt that is going to weigh very heavily on our growth in the future. And we're probably going to see GDP growth consistently below 2% for a extended period of time. We're likely to continue to see deflation as a result of that poor output gap. Um, so I would be really concerned about making this a permanent feature of the U.S. economy. I think that it would fundamentally destroy American competitiveness because the market participants aren't actually living in reality, right? It allows people that probably, I mean, there are some people out there. Well, like, it's a good example for us. Okay, my wife's a flight attendant. How long is the airline industry going to be in the situation that it is? Is her job still going to be there in a year? Will she be able to still work it with having an infant child now the way that she did with her past kids? Because she's going to be lower on the totem. More people get laid off, she's not going to be as high on the totem pole, and there's not as many jobs to work. She won't have as much flexibility in her schedule, right? But because of the government, we haven't had to face that problem yet. I don't actually know what the reality is going to be. You know, that I think is a really big problem with UBI that I you can't resolve.
Jackson O'Leary says, can't you argue that many other countries are also taking out debt because of the virus? So we're not alone.
Sure. And it means that global growth overall is going to be low for a long time. I mean, the problem is that like a year from now, we'll be able to look back and actually see the real overall effects from this. And I think that our perspective on a couple of things might be very different at that point. You know what I mean?
Winston's mom says Mark Cuban would like to give each of us $1,000 every 2 weeks. We must spend it or lose it according to his plan. I'm digging that plan since I won't be around in 40 years to pay for it, probably.
Ah, right. Well, and this is the other really interesting thing is that we've always been saying, yeah, give people the money and then spend it. And guess what? Like, we gave people the money and, like, did they really spend it? Not really. I mean, I think that if you went down and you did the numbers, I think that you would still find that it was stimulative, right? But I think that if you go back through and do the math on the multipliers, you're going to find that direct cash payments is probably the least productive use of government capital in terms of addressing markets like that. Does that make sense? The multiple that has the highest from studies that we've done in the past, and it'll be really interesting to see when they do these studies on the coronavirus panic. But the measure that seems to have the best multiple is unemployment insurance. So that seems to be a really, really effective use of the government's capital. But the giving the people the $1,000 or whatever it was, $1,800 or whatever, appears to not be that effective in terms of its stimulative effect on the economy. Now we're going to get a tax holiday. Apparently, my understanding from Donald Trump is that we're going to get a tax holiday. Now we'll finally be able to see the actual, because that's never really, I don't think that that's ever really, really happened. Well, I guess it did happen at one point, didn't it? It's like 2006, there was something like that. I think that we could get some better numbers on that. Then we'll see. Does rolling back the taxes have, because from the numbers that they've done in the past, they say that it doesn't. It's one of the best ones in terms of like the actual money, but it's not their most effective. Their most effective use of capital, as I said again, is like in terms of benefits. Giving people benefits seems to help more the stay that I saw.
Uzi Knesset says Obama did something similar in 2011 and
Yeah.
2012.
I need to look at that now because I don't know the details of what it was.
Salim L says may the Trump spirit bless the world. AMERICAAAA.
Well, I'm glad that I didn't FOMO into that bender of a move down in the treasuries. I mean, this could turn back down at any second, of course, and I'll be surprised. But look, I'd be so stressed out right now. And the E-mini really hasn't done a whole lot of anything until the open. Now, here on the open, I think that I would be on the lookout that this trade where they rotate might come in really strongly on the open. That's what I'm gonna be looking for. Oh no, there's a heat wave coming in Utah. Boo. Boo, maybe we should go camping on the weekend. I don't want to be out there. It's so bad when it was super hot. Gold silver bonds hit as everything duration Momo Sash liquidity trade
Salim L says Obama is an
unwinds.
actual lizard.
So again, if this is a
Uzi
trade that we're
Knesset says
seeing, we'll
lol.
see NASDAQ down. I think I would need to see more volume down here before I'd want to go short again in the treasuries. Now, another thing to keep in mind is if we're seeing this trade unwind, I think that we should see gappers not be as effective today. So there's a lot of day traders doing gappers lately. I think that you will see it get hit. Companies are talking about turning furloughs into permanent layoffs, says CNBC. The dark side of good earnings companies are talking about. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I hate it when they have like the headline and then they expand on the headline and that's like the exact same thing. Okay. Well, I don't think I want to take it straight on the open, but I'm kind of tempted to just short it into it. Well, let's see what the initial move is. 5 seconds. Okay. It's like buying on the first move. Not getting very far. That's a little better.
Kevin Wimmer says iceberg NQ.
Oh, yes, I see it in 30 at 30.
Kevin Wimmer says pan flop lol.
Yeah, that's fine.
Salim L says boom, that was a good mispricing. On NQ.
NQ does look a little heavy, but it's not. So far, it's kind of all over the place.
Kevin
So
Wimmer
they're
says so
trying
fast
30
lol.
again,
Dropped 15
holding.
points after that.
Look at that.
Salim L says how many ticks is that?
Oh, NQ moves so fast, dude. I don't even want to know.
Tin Chu says large buy iceberg on S open.
I didn't see a lot
Vlad
of volume go
Stolyarov
through on
says
the US
JPM
Open.
pair up.
I'm not seeing a lot of volume on the US Open. And in NQ, I'm seeing those icebergs, but I'm not seeing the cumulative delta has not significantly changed in ES yet. And the book did just go negative though. It's a little flaky though.
Vlad Stolyarov says NQ as a short. Vlad Stolyarov says 11,030.
Hmm. Seems like an
Winston's mom says in
open.
2004, the United States Congress enacted such a tax holiday for U.S. multinational companies in the American Jobs Creation Act of 2004, AJCA, Section 965. Winston's mom says allowing them to repatriate foreign profits to the United States at a 5.25% tax rate, rather than the existing 35% corporate tax rate.
No, but we want to
Vlad
know
Stolyarov
about
says I wait
payroll
usually
tax
6
holiday.
minutes into open if I am aggressive 15 minutes to see trend if it's not there yet.
We want to know the aggregate effects of a payroll tax holiday because that gives money to everybody that works. It helps the companies, and then you
Kevin
got this whole
Wimmer
thing
says
about Social
NNQ is
Security.
ticking faster than the rest of the DOMs combined lol.
I know, right? NQ is really crazy. Like, beginning traders always get attracted to the NQ because of that behavior. But I'm just warning you guys. That thing is the widow maker. You catch some crazy slippage on that thing. It is thin. It is fast. I wouldn't touch it unless you're trying to do like high frequency trading or something. Seriously. Like, there's a reason why the liquidity on it is so low, man. Okay, so now they're pushing below the open.
Winston's mom says in 2011 and 2012, a payroll tax holiday temporarily reduced the Social Security tax rate for workers from 6.2 to 4.2%. The lost revenue to the Social Security program was. Winston's mom says reimbursed from the federal government's general revenues.
So was it 2011 and 2012? But it was only reduced from 6.2 to 4.2. What is Donald Trump? He's like, oh, we need to go and read it because I don't know. I think that I kind of assumed that it was just they were getting rid of the payroll tax 100%. Like it would be reduced to 0 till the end of the year was what I thought.
Salim
now
L
I'm
says I only
realizing that
trade
I
for
don't know
100
that.
milliseconds maximum. Winston's mom
100
says in
milliseconds
2015,
maximum.
Congress passed the Bipartisan Budget Act, which reallocated the portions of the 6.2% payroll tax paid by workers and their employers going to DNOASI.
So for a trade like that, Salim, if you're hitting like 70% win rate,
Winston's mom says prior to January 1, 2016, 0.9% was allocated to the D Trust Fund, and the remaining 5.3% was allocated to OASI. As a result of this law, 1.185% was allocated to the D Trust Fund.
Yeah, so if you're going to take a trade like that, as long as your risk reward is equal and you're hitting 70%, then good. If your risk reward is like your stop is larger than your profit, then I'd be really concerned about that because in the kind of bender environments, especially the one that I think that we might be getting into in NQ, that's a situation where you could get multiple losses in a row, even though that like should never happen to you, right? So be very, very careful about your risk on that sort of a trade, especially when you start having to factor in slippage. Yeah. Because slippage on NQ can be pretty extreme. Okay, so I can see the buyer's line. We're coming up on it. 6150. Question
Kevin
is,
Wimmer
can they
says
go
is the
further?
VPOC still at 30?
For the whole session, I don't know.
Vlad Stolyarov says TSLA flushed.
Really? Wait, what are they at?
Kevin Wimmer says talking about NQ. Kevin Wimmer says the
Right.
iceberg at the open. Vlad Stolyarov says 1365 now TSLA.
Hold on a second. We need to change something here in the NQ. Don't auto center.
Winston's mom says year,
Oh,
barring legislative action. Winston's mom says the order he signed on
is
Saturday is only suspending the tax, not cutting
is
it. The money
600.
that companies would cease to withhold from their employees' earnings would have to be paid next. Kevin Wimmer says man you have to scroll through a lot lol.
Right. There were 600 contracts traded at the top there. That was a good trade, man. Something that weirded me out about that though was I saw that iceberg at 30, and you guys said it in chat almost at
Kevin
the same
Wimmer says
time.
must feel bad buying the high of the session with so much volume.
How did you say that so quickly? Because with the delay and everything, it shouldn't be that fast. But you were pointing it out like literally as it was happening. And yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, then okay, this is where I want to get short because I can already see them doing the trade that I was looking for. It was playing out almost. It was like even more clear than I thought they would give. Okay, now they are doing some pullback here. And now is kind of where we're going to get the moment of,
Vlad Stolyarov says NQ trying to bounce.
yeah, they're going to try and bounce. They didn't quite make it to the line that I look for.
Vlad Stolyarov says that's why I wait 15 minutes. Vlad Stolyarov says never chase.
Mm.
Salim L says true. I get 15 profit 8 ticks stop loss. But I always close before 100 milliseconds no matter what.
Really? Well, that's interesting.
Uzi Knesset says ZB15 target on deck.
Apparently, there's some Kurdistan conflict that could potentially be that could have political implications in the United States because there's
Vlad
still
Stolyarov
a
says
lot
when
of
it's all
hurt
heavy
feelings
volume
over.
I can't tell direction on NQ.
Oh yeah, you know what? Like with the way that this trades with the DOM, it's we really need to have the ability to combine these four prices into one to read the volume on the NQ. And even the Vista chart, you had to like zoom out. You couldn't zoom out far enough to see.
Kevin Wimmer says I think you need to merge prices.
Yeah. Is there a way to merge the prices? And I was looking, I thought that there was, and I couldn't find it. Right? I thought that there was something about merge prices in here, and I just don't see it. Oh, we should have momentum tells. That'll help.
Vlad Stolyarov says I will wait to short NQ 11,060 if it gets there with a signal.
You'd think that I think that might be a feature that's coming later in Jigsaw, but I don't think that it's in there right now because they were talking about like stuff for stocks. because it won't be long before you'll be able to do this kind of trading on stocks.
Salim L says I see nothing on NQ, it's balanced now.
Yeah.
Vlad Stolyarov says yeah, it was a fun stop run.
It's still pretty wild at the moment. Treasuries came back down towards their lows, by the way. Hmm.
Tinchu says how do you see the stop run in Jigsaw?
I think the only thing that I can really
Vlad
tell that
Stolyarov
it's a
says I
stop
guess.
is if it just hits multiple prices all at once. Or I just I can tell when it's covering. A lot of that move down was longs covering. Like a panic profit taking.
Tinchu says bookmap shows better info from MBO data.
It can show you stops, yes.
Kevin Wimmer says now Seth another day to prove my point. Put a CL DOM next to NQ and the volatility is not even close.
No
even
way,
accounting
yeah.
that 2 ticks in the NQ equals to 1 in CL.
No, you're totally right. The NQ is insane. Like watching this, it's alarming to me that so many retail traders try and trade this. I've noticed it's really popular. Okay, so now do you see that? That was a pretty solid down move. So I'm definitely seeing this kind of like NQ goes down more than the E-mini.
Vlad Stolyarov says I need vertical position on 27 inches monitor for this open.
I would need to make this thing like I really what I need to do is this, right? All the way, make it all the way. The whole screen, the whole width, the whole height of the screen.
Vlad Stolyarov says kinda chasing scrolling it.
Yeah.
Uzi Knesset says set auto recenter to 25 ticks. Kevin Wimmer
I
says
think it
YM,
is
FDAX and gold right now should be also very fast, not NQ League though.
there. 25.
Salim
instead of
L says
24.
NQ looks like that satanic AI robot they dream about in movies. Vlad Stolyarov says QQQ at VWAP resistance I guess is their sellers now.
Don't think they're done yet. It looked like a sell, and it's not really continuing on, and they're not done yet. We'll see. Okay, they hit into some highs there. E-mini dumping again, or
Vlad
sorry,
Stolyarov
10-year
says ill
dumping
wait for
again.
11,060.
Uh,
Uzi Knesset says ZB trying to hold 15. I have no targets below that lol.
Look at 4K at 12. This is insane.
Tinchu says S going up.
Okay. They recovered 12 there.
Vlad Stolyarov says for shorts. Vlad Stolyarov says what would be scary if NQ goes green on day. Vlad Stolyarov says who
Well,
trapped now.
Doesn't look entirely positive for me, does it? Mm-mm. Gonna get out here because I'm seeing something,
Vlad
and I
Stolyarov
kind
says
of
it was
want
at
to let
highs at 5
them.
a.m.
Yeah, kind of want to let them do their thing. They're gonna put a ton of volume at risk here.
Sunday driver says sup.
Vlad Stolyarov says
Sunday.
11,140s. Salim L says I don't KNWO what to call a trader that trades NQ on the 1 minute time frame.
Crazy. I don't know. I mean, they're buying it up, but it does not look
Vlad
like
Stolyarov says
incredibly
TSLA
positive
testing
action.
1400.
Really? Well, it's about time. Man. I just want a short position in the Treasury so bad, and I just can't find a spot. 15.5. It could have been 15.5. Yeah.
Kevin Wimmer says trading NQ on a minute time frame. Are you
10
crazy?
second
10
chart,
seconds
yeah.
chart, else you are to slow asterisk sarcasm off.
Gold is bouncing a little bit now. 6J's still getting under pressure. A little bit of dollar move up, though. I don't know, man. That up move, a little disappointing. Hmm.
Salim L says do you think Rhythmic is the best execution out there?
I don't know if execution wise they're really all that different, to be honest with you. Hmm. Look at that turn. Hmm. I'm not quite sure where that's coming from or going to. As hard of a down as that was, it's kind of recovering pretty well. Still see this like 63 area down below us though. 62. Treasuries pulled back nicely there. Russia vaccine. Oh yeah. So there was a news story about earlier about overnight that Russia has completed their trials for the vaccine and they hope to start the manufacturing later this year. And somebody's saying that that's positive. I don't know if the markets really care about that because it's Russia, and of course they don't have as much regulatory stuff set on it. And
Jet and B says Dow adds 300 plus points amid vaccine, stimulus optimism.
yeah, I guess it could be.
Uzi Knesset says Russian vaccine make you piss vodka. Kevin Wimmer says I don't think the markets need any reason to buy lol.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kevin. Like, the markets are up over hopes of a stimulus, dude. If that's the reason why people are buying, go short because that bill is not happening this week. They aren't even talking.
Jet and B says yes.
They aren't even talking. Can you believe it? But
Jet and B
I
says
think
in
it's
2
much
weeks
more
I
than
has
that.
to get done.
I think it's much more than that.
Vlad Stolyarov says politicians go on vacation anyway this month.
Hmm. Well, that's weird.
Jet and B says they don't go in vacation before they reach the deal.
I don't know if they can reach a deal. Like, now that Donald Trump has done his executive orders, does the Republicans have any reason to cave on anything? I think they're so far apart right now. Despite reports of preliminary talks involving Twitter, TikTok, US, I am told by people close to the deal, Microsoft is, at least for now, the only possible deal being actively pursued. Of course, this could change, but that's the current state of play. Interesting. Because some of the stuff that I was reading yesterday kind of made it sound like that the deal with Microsoft was kind of falling apart. Okay, so there's another pretty
Salim
solid
L says they
downturn.
say ZN is for scalping. When I look at ZN I feel like I am looking at my own fossil records. Kevin
just
Wimmer
take one
says so
tick.
when is Biden gonna pick his vice president? I am not up to date. Last thing I heard was like first week of August and well that passed.
No, he was, yeah, so I will catch you up here, Kevin. He was supposed to announce it the first day of August, you're correct. And the theory is that he had selected this lesser known lady, I forget what her name was, But it turned out that she had like ties with Scientology that weren't very good, and the Daily Beast put out like a, or maybe it was the Daily Caller put out a big article about her and how she had supported it and everything, and then it was like they canceled it. So people think, although we haven't, it hasn't been confirmed. This will be something that maybe like long after the election we'll find out that actually they were going to pull the trigger on her, and then they saw that story and chickened out. So I think that what happened was they went back to the drawing board and started all over again, and that's why it's taking like 2 weeks. And it keeps turning into this like 2 more weeks kind of stuff. Yeah. So Salim, the thing with the ZN is that you need to look for more than just the tick, right? When these orders move around and change, that's, think of that as it ticking up and down, because that's like you can get a better or worse spot in line. When you look at it from that perspective, it moves a lot.
JB says, you mean you don't want Tom Cruise running the country?
I mean, I guess that would be okay. No, actually, no. Tom Cruise is kind of crazy. No, I don't want. I hope Tom Cruise doesn't go into politics. Please no. I like him as an actor. I really like all of his movies. Okay, this is getting on my nerves, to be honest with you guys here. I think I've got it, and it's going, and then it's so.
Jet and B says a second stimulus check is being worked on, but the payment schedule is still unknown. ... Negotiators of the currently stalled coronavirus relief package do support another $1,200 payment.
They do, but they're not even talking. The whole thing over there is crazy. I find it curious that the market seems to think that it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen. But I'm also wondering if I'm just misinterpreting that the market doesn't really care anymore.
Jet and B says market ain't going to jump when they spend that money. Jet and B says as.
So I'm thinking back to the treasuries. Like I was planning on coming out and being like, I think treasuries are going to go more and selling it. I should have just sold it where it was instead of thinking, oh, it was going to come back for me. Because it never did. It never even come close to any kind of a pullback in the treasury. I really regret that trade, unfortunately. Okay, now they're pushing those. Come on. 62. Okay. So that's the move that I originally wanted. Can they cross this overnight spread zone? Maybe to yesterday's high. How far can we? Yeah, I mean, yesterday's close is not a bad spot either. But this has just been so wishy-washy today. Okay. So I don't know if that was all stops and everything. It seemed to go down pretty smoothly, but there was certainly a good number of orders that went through there as they broke into lows again. I think that maybe some of the action that we're seeing here in the E-mini that's making it so difficult for me is that there's been a macro shift, and not all of the participants in the market understand that and are still trying to trade off of the previous stuff. So they're probably feeling really frustrated as well. Because you've got basically got the people trading the new thing, and you've got the old regime not realizing that their time is up. So you get a lot of this confusing action. But I think, yeah. So about this point, I think that a lot of retail has to be thinking, that they're trying to close the gap and they're going to go for yesterday's high, right? That's at 57. And then, like I said, there's yesterday's close is where a lot of the seller side cost basis is at 33.53, which would be not bad.
Salim L says if you think that's mispriced, you should trade it.
Well, I'm in on one right now. But I guess the split side of that is, one, it makes us much less certain about what the direction is actually going to be, because it's a newer dynamic and we don't understand it very well. And it's going to make it, even if we have the direction right, it's going to make it harder to find a spot. So these are kind of the problems that we have to deal with. There are some things that can help us, right? Like with that iceberg at the beginning in the NQ, that was really useful, right? It's unfortunate that they had such a deep pullback on it, but there has been some liquidity that has kind of helped us a little bit. Okay, they're hitting lows again. It was a little tepid that time.
Sunday driver says buy gold.
Buy gold. I am really shocked Sunday at how fast they came down. Yeah, it does kind of make you think, hey, could this be a good buy location for gold? But I think that if we want to buy gold, that we might want to wait a few days, because there's this macro play coming out. If it's really a true macro play, then that gold move down is probably going to continue for a bit until something changes. The thing, though, is I don't understand
Salim
how
L
this
says, are you long
shift
S
away
now?
from momentum.
Jet and B says really buy gold. I
No,
wish I
no,
bought
I'm
gold
short.
30 years ago. Kevin
It's
Wimmer
bound
says
to
so I can
correct.
understand why the Nasdaq made new ATH, and even a mini being carried by tech stocks, but what about the Russell 2000? It's also near ATH level and those should only be small caps.
Is it near
Sunday
all-time
driver
high
says
as
it was
well?
bound to correct.
Oh, well, I think that people just buy everything all. It all moves all at once. This is a crazy thing. There was I saw this stat yesterday. I think it was from Zero Hedge. Hold on. Um, uh, I saw this stat that there was more ETFs than there were companies listed in the public companies listed in the United States. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Couldn't believe it. I was really surprised by that. But yeah, I don't
Sunday driver
understand how
says
this
long
shift.
term, US dollar is still toast. Fundamentals remain the same.
No, something's happening Sunday. So it looks like there's a reflation trade going on.
Kevin Wimmer says it's Seth.
Okay, yeah. I don't watch the Russell that well, so okay. Look at her go. There's a stop run. If I ever saw one. And I'm done. You want to go more? Go more. That's cool. 33.52. Yesterday's close, another spot. I think this has a good chance of going much further today. I think that we should consider the possibility of a reversal day, like a straight up reversal day, because as I said, I am detecting a macro change. So can we go back now that Sunday's here and let me try and explain what I'm seeing and why I find it confusing, but why I seem to see a change, okay? I'm going to switch over here to my charts while that's going around. Okay, so the big thing that's happening today is the treasuries are getting annihilated. Okay, so because the treasuries are going down, there is a pretty solid correlation between the treasuries and the interest rate and gold. And because the interest rate is increasing, I think that's part of why there's some pressure on gold. Okay. But why is there pressure on the treasuries? Because I think there's an inflation trade going on, right? They're saying that we're going to get short term, we're going to get some more inflation, and that's going to put short term pressure on interest rates. Okay. Yes. Yes, big, way big overnight, and quite frankly, can't really justify it. So, yeah, should that one revert a little bit, a pullback at least? Yeah, sure. But if we're getting real macro change, as indicated by the Treasury, and here again, golds. I mean, gosh, look at gold. Sheesh. That's like a whole week's worth in one day. Okay. Then is it possible that we could get below the extended session low and go negative on the day? Very possible. Very possible. Okay, now the next one that we need to look at is the dollar. Okay, so, see, Sunday is even mentioning it. So there's the dollar index, and you can see that since the weekend, we are higher than we were last week. But then here this morning, a little bit of dollar weakness when the E-mini, moved up and everything. And now here, we're seeing a little bit of flight to the dollar. Not extreme, but we are seeing a little bit of flight to the dollar. Right? And there you can see the gold just a real bender down. Okay. So, if we were seeing a reflation trade, what would we, if it was inflation coming in, what would we see? PPI higher? True. Treasuries lower? True. Gold higher? Not true. Not true. But Apparently, the correlation between gold and the treasuries right now is more important to them. Okay. The NASDAQ selling more than the S&P 500. True. Get it? Right? So it seems to me like they're rotating. They're rotating out of these NASDAQ issues. That, for some reason, is hurting gold. So if I wanted to get back into gold, I think that I would want to wait until after that rotation is finished.
Jet and B says dollar going down as soon as they pass the stimulus package deal.
What stimulus package deal? It's dead. I mean, how long? So here's the question. At which point do you start to say maybe it's not going to happen? I mean, I still think that ultimately it will happen. Probably, right? If the market throws enough of a fit, then it will definitely happen. Can't be dead. It is dead. They have not spoken this week. People owe rent. Yeah, well. Donald Trump put in an executive order. He fixed that. Donald Trump put in an executive orders so that people can't get evicted. They can get unemployment benefits, although there's some real question about how effective that actually is. And there was a third thing that he did. What was the third thing that he did? I don't even remember. Maybe it was just those two. Oh, and then he signed a thing to have a payroll tax holiday. Right? So Donald Trump did the executive orders. Do we really need the stimulus? I'm not sure. I think we do. Probably we do. There's going to be like in a couple of weeks here, we're going to hit into this wall. But they haven't negotiated. Let me come back here and read this again. Let me see if I can find him. Where is he? Jake Sherman was super triggered. Hold on. More stuff on this Kurdistan news. Let's see here. spoke with a couple of senior administration officials who both said they see little chance of a fiscal stimulus deal comes anytime soon. They are not likely to be any serious talks this week, partly because White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows is out for the week, but mostly because the administration feels confident that they have the upper hand politically following the President Donald Trump's executive actions. One official said the White House feels it has Democrats in a real pickle, and if they try to block the executive actions, they will look like they are trying to hurt people. This person said that simply splitting the difference on the overall price tag of a deal is not likely to fly. In fact, we are told it could be weeks before any serious talks resume, barring any significant events like Wall Street sell-offs or a run of truly dismal economic data. At the moment, there is little in the way of forcing mechanism to get the parties back together to come up with a compromise deal. Okay, and then Jake Sherman went off on this. Not entirely sure if Wall Street is even paying attention anymore, but Morning Money Ben says it. No stimulus bill in the works. Bum, bum, bum. If you're paying someone who is telling you there will be a bill this week, then fire them immediately. The amount of absolute crap that consultants feed hedge funds and investors is amazing. Amazing that these consultants get away with it, and amazing that hedge funds don't fire them when their base cases come up completely bogus. Your good point.
JB says not a holiday, just deferring when it needs to be paid, unless Congress makes it a holiday and for those making less than $104,000 a year.
You are correct, sir. Good point. But the point is, they are not talking. They're unlikely to do any serious talks this week. And the people on the right feel absolutely no pressure to make a deal right now. So, if your investing thesis had anything to do with there will be a stimulus this week, I think that you've got to rethink your trades. Shouldn't say your investing thesis because that could be very, very long far out. But if your day trading plan involves anything to do with stimulus is going to happen, then I would rethink that.
Kevin Wimmer says, what about the Biden vice president thing?
What about it? Did you hear when I went up on about that earlier, or should I go into that again? Oh, okay. So here's what happened, Kevin. Conservatives believe that he had picked the nominee. I think it was Valerie Jarrett. I can't remember exactly. They believe that he had picked the person, and there was a lot of rumor going on about that they had picked, and it was this person. And so one of the conservative outlets, I think it was the Daily Caller, did a big expose about this particular candidate. And in particular, what they pointed out was that she had supported the Church of Scientology in the past. And it wasn't just like she had kind of supported them. It was like when they opened up their big mega church in California or whatever, she was there and like spoke at the opening ceremony and everything, right? Like she was the local politician that really assisted them. And she claims that, oh, well, we didn't know about them back then, but we did. And it was a pretty scathing article. And you really got to sit there like, how do you elect a vice president? Like, because this is going to be like possibly the president, right? You pick one that supported Scientology, that's not going to fly, right? So conservatives believe that Joe Biden had already picked the nominee and then reneged. Like they were going to offer it to her, and then they decided, nope, actually, we don't want to do her anymore. And they restarted their search completely over. So that it was announced to be on August 1st, and now that it hasn't happened, leads credence to that theory. It's a pretty likely case, although I don't think they will get like true confirmation of it till after the election. But so it sounds like that Joe Biden completely restarted his search. Okay, so Uzi, I'm seeing something really weird that we have not seen before, but we theorized. The seller break even point is touching the buyer's cost basis. So, even if we were to completely retrace this move and come up, and the shorts lost all of their money, the longs would still only basically be at their cost basis. Like, what? That's crazy. That is a downtrend. Does that mean that probably it's over? I don't know. Now I'm seeing the E-mini did recover as expected, but they're hitting into this EMA that will often be difficult on a down. So we might get another down here.
Salim L says that SMAP setup looks good. No noise. What is it?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. You're probably talking about this one in the lower right, yeah? It's just a tick chart. Or a one range chart, rather. I know. I don't get what you mean by there's no noise, because when I look at it, there's tons of noise. There is the short right there. Potentially at 3360 might be a momentum shift entry. I think it's pointing down a little bit too much to do that one. I think, in fact, I'd want to reverse that one and buy it there. Oh, this right here. This is just Jigsaw's Vista chart. I don't know. The big thing I like about it is it shows you the cumulative delta down here in a way that I find is a little bit more useful than what I can see when I see it over in Ninja Trader. But when I look at like the lines, I don't really get a whole lot. I should probably fix this. I had it fixed. Let me show you. I will change it to what I had. It was like what was it? Auction Vista, heat map, and then I had this level and I made it like a bright green. Yeah. And I same here. There you go. So there are a few. Only like the biggest price is going to be colored. We'll try that.
Kaka Silva says, hi Seth, I am out of the market. Market is moving without reason. Any idea?
Yeah, so let's find there's a good zero hedge. Zero hedge has a pretty good there's the one today. Wasn't there one earlier? Kirkman says gold's rise has nothing to do with investors inspecting soaring inflation. That one is probably worth reading. Okay. All major U.S. equity indexes spiked in the early hours overnight on the back of optimistic vaccine headlines from Russia. However, while the Russell 2000 futures are holding gains of over 1%, NASDAQ has tumbled into the red as the last few days of the MOMO/growth versus value rotation appears to be accelerating. And then they have a link to another article. Here it is. Okay. This is the article that you want to read. Let me post it to you guys here in YouTube. And I will read it out loud, all right? This is Zero Hedge. This morning's price action in major in major U.S. equity indexes is unusual to say the least. A huge sudden spike in small caps was met with a wave of selling in mega cap techs, the NASDAQ, essentially. As the recent run in growth/momentum relative to value has reversed dramatically in the last 2 days. See the chart? Okay. So think back to March. Momentum has increased. Value has been hated. Okay. We had this little spike down in May. That was when we had the first kind of sell-off, right? And now here you're seeing it again. That Momo versus value is coming off. Okay. Why? Nomura's Charlie McElliott believes that the M2 money aggregate reflation signal observation discussed last week is actually in the process of triggering real time. This, McElliott notes, is marking a possible inflection away from what has been risk aversions and savings tide slowdown behind the crash in U.S. money velocity at the core behind the U.S. yield suppression and the recent momentum trade in U.S. equities. Indeed, Nomura's MD fits with our own observation last month by one of the world's legendary deflationists are taking one look at the following chart of the global money supply, and after seeing the clear determination of central banks to spark a global inflationary conflagration, are quietly and not so quietly capitulating. And what's happening today? The most extreme selling I've seen in the treasuries since I got this whole, I can count things. Look at this. Literally at the literally just stopping out the longs the whole way down. Just nothing but stops. Look at it on a volume profile. Holy shiznit, right? Now they're not below that July 28th low, but we had a pretty good move up in treasuries last week, and we were kind of turning negative the past few days, and now today is just completely bust, like the floor just completely fell out from underneath of it, right? Okay. Let's read on. As Horseman Global's Russell Clark noted, the US dollar will likely weaken from here, and it is clear to me Western governments will only attempt fiscal austerity as a last resort, not a first. The conditions for both good and bad inflation are now in place. As Noburo's cost asset strategist explains, last Thursday's Federal Reserve data showed a decline in the US M2 measure for a second consecutive week, and the largest 2-week aggregate decline since the January 10th. Okay, here's the chart again. Money supply actually decreasing a little bit. This, Miguelia explains, is because it is a sign of confirmation of both corporates and individuals that their risk aversion and saving behavior has inflected from the peak, as opposed to the widely held view that it is the impulse higher in M2, which leads to the inflation spillover, largely due to the Fed balance sheet largesse. Okay, let me read that again. Miguelia explains it is because it is a sign of confirmation from both corporates and individuals that their risk aversion and saving behavior has inflected from the peak. Okay? As opposed to the widely held view that it is the impulse higher in M2, which leads to the inflation spillover. So he's correct, which is that the M2 money supply is in and of itself is not what creates inflation. I mean, it puts pressure on it to create inflation, but think of it as like the thing that squeezes. What actually is directly responsible for the inflation is the corporations and individuals' risk aversion and saving behavior. And if they're coming in and all they want to do is just buy everything, then that creates inflation. Okay. What he then finds notable was that Friday's trade in U.S. equities risk premium land immediately reflected this sort of impulse and was remarkably pro-cyclical, which means value, risk, and reversal factors, despite the SPX only up 6 basis points on the day, which of course then corresponds with this macro factor reflation signal coming at the cost of growth and thus momentum. Right, and then they pointed out here are the big gainers. Earnings per share improved, debt versus equity, and what lost? Price momentum, sales growth, EPS growth. Okay, and this continued again today with SPX flattish, but risk factors again exploding higher at the cost of growth and momentum. Here's a factor performance snapshot after the open with more of the same, value over versus risk over growth versus momentum, and currently with Russell outperforming the NASDAQ by 120 basis points. Okay. Okay. Did you get that? Russell outperforming NASDAQ. This was yesterday. He posted this. And then they talk about like they did a back test where they looked at these kinds of situations. And the takeaways fit the scenario we envisioned for this broad August, September, and a quarter 4 cross-asset thematic reversal into a broad risk-on stance in returns for equities factors. Value over growth sectors, cyclicals over defensives, and assets most acutely over the next 6 to 12. Okay. So I don't understand all of this because the way that the different assets are kind of allocated is a little uncertain to me, but the general gist of it is NASDAQ is selling, treasuries are selling, gold is selling, and all of this money is reallocating. And where is it going to? It's going to the cyclicals, the value plays, essentially. Makes sense? That, I believe, is why we're seeing what we're seeing today. And we came in, I was expecting to see if that, NASDAQ play was going to continue through. I think that what we've seen today is pretty good indication that it was. You know what I mean? And the fact that we came back, but it didn't like just completely turn into a total bender of a day. I mean, I think we could still turn negative today, but overall, um, this suggests to me rotation and not like outright risk off. Because they were still saying it's kind of risk on. Okay. So it's coming out of the NASDAQ and it's going into the Russell essentially. Hence earlier one of you guys was saying, hey, but the Russell is up really good right now too. Like, think about it. A lot of money just moved. Okay, so here's somebody who was responding to me when I was talking to Jake Sherman. Even though it may actually need the 2 trillions, the market appears already looking past the bridge over and realize the reopening rotation theme market is ripping off right now. Okay, I went like on this big long like rant and explaining that to you guys all. I hope that was useful and answered the question. Oh, now you guys had a bunch of other. Oh, I thought that there was another comment about there. Oh, that was Kaka's. Yes. Okay, turn that on. Let's see here.
Salim L says okay. Going to Amazon?
Going to Amazon. No. Just responding to this guy that was talking to me on Jake Sherman's post. I hope that we helped Jake out there. You've been a pretty good reporter, Jake. I'm trying to do you a solid one here. EU nationals are fleeing the UK as coronavirus cuts jobs in hospitality. Oh, that's interesting. As our response to Russia vaccine announcement, the point is not to be first. Yeah, I'm a little, I don't know, man. If the market's all up on the Russian vaccine, I'm like, who cares? You can't get it here. Why would you buy up on that? Robots
Salim
doing
L
it.
says, is the money out of ZN going to Amazon?
No, I think that it's coming out of Amazon too, probably. I would think Amazon should not be doing super great today. Let's look. Trading view. If you need a view, call Trading View. Okay. AMZN. Oh, stock. Amazon.
Jet and B says, where is it going to then?
Look.
PRT1 says, don't we hate the Russians, lol.
Oh, we hate the. I don't care. Down. Amazon down today. So again, remember, treasuries, gold, tech, down. Russell, up. That appears to be where the money is going, is that the money is going to value plays. Value, which means things that are small or haven't seen the rise or that are cyclical, that they're going to be, supported by the current interest rate environment. Right? It's not like a risk off play, but it is a play like a rotation because you expect different sectors of the economy to be doing well versus what it was before. They're taking their profits in their techs and they're moving it elsewhere. We need like a heat map.
Salim L says, oh, I see.
Makes sense. By the way, we did touch.
Salim L says, thanks. Jet and B says, what about airline?
I personally, I'm really concerned about the airline industry, and I don't know what's going to happen there. Let's open up Thinkorswim. That will allow us to get a little bit deeper of a dive into what the sectors are doing. I am not like a huge fan of Thinkorswim. I guess there's interactive brokers, but I'm just not so sure that there's really is an equities trading platform that I'm like really like, yeah, that's where I want to go, You guys have suggestions, I'd like to know.
Jet and B says, well, soon as they get the vaccine, people are going to fly, right?
I don't know. I think that even after everything recovers, that people will still travel less. I think that there's going to be extremely long-term behavioral impacts from all of this. That's weird.
Jet and B says, okay.
I still have this
Salim L
trade
says,
on.
I would get equities on Jigsaw.
I got. Oh, that's interesting. So because I didn't close the trade, it just put me short at 1,500.
PRT1
So
says,
today,
too many damaged people.
So today, Tesla going down. Oh, I thought that the options just expired. They would expire. But it made me sell. It actually executed me. The sim executed me at least. Oh, that whole thing is interesting. I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it.
GRT1 says travel will be down.
Because I still don't think that Tesla is worth 1,500. Okay, so, like, where is it? Visualize? Aha. There we go. So do you see? This is perfect. You know what? Next one. Heat map. Okay, so now let's go through them all, right? So when we look at the NASDAQ,
Jet and B says Tesla recover always. The guy is genius.
notice how all of these big ones are red. Okay, now let's come and look at the Russell. Ah, lots of green, especially financials. Healthcare a little mixed. Industrials, pretty good. Consumer discretionaries, it looks like that's just kind of okay. Consumer staples, not so good. Okay. So consumer staples, what is consumer staples, right? Consumer staples is products that people buy to live, like food and toothpaste and these things that people don't stop buying. So consumer staples is a flight to safety play. If the market was going risk off, consumer staples would be doing better, but you can see that it's not. So the trade is not a risk off trade. The trade is a rotation trade, right? Away from the technology stocks and towards the value stocks, the small value plays. Okay. S&P 500 will note all of these big tech names are down, banks are up. So banks, one place where it's all going to. Let's come over here to our charts. And Goldman up to 216, which that's pretty solid up move in them. And they've been kind of bumping up against resistance for a long time. Above 220 is like really good. So banks may finally be turning the corner. I don't know. Okay, VIX a little bit. Now they were down lower. They're trying to come back up, but VIX still right. So it's not a risk off play, but it is a rotation that we can take advantage of. And that's why I wanted to go short, but I didn't want to hold it. Even though I knew that there was a chance that, hey, if this is like really going to turn, it could like turn into a reversal day. I said that too, but that wasn't like my base case, right? That was like okay, this is something that could happen that could kind of screw us up that we need to be careful about. But the main play is that there's a rotation. I'm trying because some people have been saying, oh, how do you learn how to trade? Well, this guy Seth, he's nice and I like him, but he's not actually showing me. So I'm trying to go a little bit more into detail for you guys. For that new guy out there that's listening, how did you make that trade? Why did you play it the way that you did? Now you know.
Salim L says, but why banks and financials?
Because those are the value plays, right? You want to take your money out of the things that have been doing really well and put them into the things that aren't doing so well right now, but will start to be doing well, right? So they're saying, banks, small companies, these things are going to benefit from the reflation. Whereas these tech companies, they've already kind of played out. That's why it's value. Names that are a good deal. They're not up a ton yet. What's the market you're saying here?
Salim L says, ooh, got you.
They're pointing out that the Federal Reserve is not buying very many more purchases from ETFs. Hmm.
PRT1 says moving to value should indicate strong outlook on this recovery.
Here's this chart. This is the chart that shows it most clearly, right? Genius pointed down. Value is starting to pick up. And they're thinking, I mean, the play may be that this whole thing might completely mean, like, this is normally something that mean reverts, that doesn't go very far. It's unusual that growth over value is so far extended. They're thinking that it's going to come back.
PRT1 says moving to value should indicate strong outlook on this recovery.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily just a strong outlook. I mean, I don't think that they're suddenly saying that we think that the economy is going to be even better than we thought. I think that it's kind of more of a capitulation that the central banks are serious about creating inflation and are really going to put a lot of money out there, and that we are going to get some inflation. And if you're going to get some inflation, you don't necessarily want to be in the names that have already pumped up a ton. You want to be in the stuff that hasn't reflated yet, because everything's going to be going up. Your money is going to be worth less. How do you actually make money in that environment? You have to really work hard to get
Salim
things
L
that are
says another dot
undervalued.
up on your bookmap S.
Yeah. When you get those dots, possible turns for sure. I wouldn't just straight read it that way, but
Salim L says sorry to cut you off.
You didn't cut me off. Well, the E-mini just made a push there at the open. That's probably why you got that bubble. Let's clear that. Yeah. What is this that Zero Hedge is tweeting? FX View, King Kong eats Godzilla in Bondland. What are they talking about? U.S. officials pouring cold water on Russian COVID-19 vaccine. U.S. Health Secretary, the point is to have a vaccine that is safe, not to be first. I wouldn't take it, former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb trashes Russia's first in the world of COVID vaccine. Maybe if I view the comments, I don't know what they're talking. I want to know what this is about. King Kong eats Godzilla in Bondland. From Societe Generale Cross Asset Research.
PRT1 says we haste Russia rah rah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is the market really up because of that? Because that makes no sense. You're not going to be able to take it in the United States. Doesn't matter if they approved it in Russia. Doesn't matter. You have to pass the FDA approval in the United States, which is going to be much more stringent. Man, can you believe that they came all the way down to 10 now in the
PRT1
Treasury?
says no shit.
I'm starting to wonder, how far can the Treasuries go before it starts to cause
Ace Trades says stop it. Stop trying to figure out why the market does what it does. You will go insane.
No, we do always. Always. That's our edge. That's my edge, Ace. I want to know why the market did what it did. If it didn't do what I thought it was going to do, then I want to understand. The more that I understand what it's doing now, the better able I am to understand what it's going to do tomorrow. And I think that today was a good example of that.
says I don't believe in market. Market believes in itself.
I understood out of the gate that this rotation was happening. So I wanted to go, and that we were a little bit high overnight.
Ace
so
Trades says, and how do you verify that you had the right answer?
If the market, so this is a good question. Because sometimes you're just early. So if I think that something is going to happen, and I take the trade and it doesn't happen, then I'm either early or I'm wrong. And that's how I play. Oh, I should turn this on. That would make things a little brighter. Yeah, I know. It's a great question. That's what he is. This guy that responded to my little thread with Jake Sherman on Twitter is...
Ace Trades says, but you could think it's X that was the cause, when in reality it was Y doing it. And Y is unknown.
That's
Jet and B
totally
says
possible.
Russia going to sell the vaccine in countries that don't require FDA approval.
Could be. If that's the case, isn't that a negative for the U.S.? Isn't that a negative for all these guys in the U.S. that were creating a vaccine and we're going to sell it? Except for the ones that have been selected for the U.S. vaccine. Like, it's true.
Jet and B says yes. Vlad Stolyarov says I think Russia will share its vaccine secret for free. Ace Trades says thank you third world countries for participating in the Russian trials.
I mean, the thing is it's probably not very much any different from the U.S. vaccines. They're all targeting the same protein. It's not going to be, they're all like the same thing. It's just that their vaccine hasn't been tested as thoroughly. J&J would consider challenge trials for the experimental vaccine if infections dropped significantly and ethical issues were solved. Reuters article read here.
Vlad Stolyarov says or up. Ace Trades says by the way, should be long at 3,364.
Yeah.
Vlad Stolyarov says what do you think NQ does at 11 a.m. reversal if there is one go down? PRT1 says let's take a vaccine that has been super rushed. Me first.
I think that we've made, we saw the thing that we wanted to see at the open. I'm kind of not sure what the next steps are. This gets back to one of my rules, not one of my rules, but a piece of advice that I think can make a really big difference for you if you're new. And that is that the first trade is usually the best trade. It did what you want it to do. Take your profit, and we don't have to sit and predict. All of the best traders, they made their money. The further on it goes, the less opportunity there is. So I don't really.
Ace Trades says made by a country not known for precision. Vlad Stolyarov says the big push was there, yeah.
Now, the real question, Ace, is did you take advantage of any of that drop in gold or treasuries? Because, holy crap. The one in treasuries, insane. Insane. I came in here, where were we at? 6:30, and we were at like 16.5. And I was like, well, I'd like to go short, but I don't know if this is a good spot. It might come back.
Ace Trades says just gold.
Just gold. Man. And it just kept going and going. Like everything says like there should be a pullback. I didn't take any trades because I only wanted to go short, but it was like, okay, here's a pullback. Maybe here. No, like it only ever gave up like 4 ticks. It was insane. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time since I've seen
Ace Trades says
like
Treasury seems too complicated, and no one in the room likes it.
No one in the room likes it. Not even ZB?
Vlad Stolyarov says UVXY says there's a lot of volume, so somebody taking bearish side.
Keep an eye on that ZB, Ace. So I'm gonna explain. I'm gonna try and teach you about treasuries here, so that you'll know how it works. And we'll see if you know how you do it. But so here is on the screen right now. Here is the 10-year treasury. Okay. So the thing about the 10-year treasury, people don't like it because it doesn't move very often. But there's always changes going on. But you got to remember that there's multiple ones, right? Here's the 10, here's the 5, and here's the 30. Okay. So now when I'm just switching between those 3 charts, do you notice a difference? Look at how much the 5-year moved. And look at how much that 30-year moved. Now, I know that they're like kind of scaled a little bit differently, but like seriously, this one moved almost a full point, and the 5-year moved a quarter of a point, right? Interest rates are traded by institutions. Retail traders have zero edge. I don't think that that's true at all. Anyways, so this is the thing. The 5-year isn't moving as far as the ZB. Okay. So how do we game that out? I need a pen. This is where it gets complicated, but I promise it's worth it. It's worth it. Okay. So here we have a yield curve. Okay. 2, 5, 10, 30. Okay. And what happened? This moved down, so the rate moved up, right? And this one, the rate moved up a little bit, and this one, it didn't move up very much, right? So the new curve is like this, right? And this is what we call, because it's a bear steepener because we're going down. It's a bear steepener, right? So if we're getting a bear steepener, and you can see it in these charts down here, right? Down at the very, very bottom, you see this spread candles. This is a spread between the 10 and the 5, and the spread between, the 30. This is between the 30 and the 10, and this is between the 30 and the 5. Okay. So you can see moving up, steepening, right? So if we're steepening, then that means that you want to buy the 5 and sell the 30, right? So if we were moving up, which we're not moving up, you would want to be in the 5-year, right? But we're moving down, so you want to sell the 30-year. The 30-year also tends to move more anyways, so probably the one you're going to be interested in is the 30-year. Okay. But now here's where it gets interesting. How are these instruments priced? The tick size is huge. Okay. A full point from 181 to 180. Okay. So from here to here, from here to here, that's $1,000 per contract. $1,000 per contract from there to there. This was almost a $2,000 move. Not bad. And it's only $500 in margin. So the leverage that you get on them is, whoo.
Ace Trades says, oh, Seth, that is more about the ZB than I have known for a year. It's the comparison you are trading off of. Meanwhile, 64 was a great long.
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, it was okay. I'm a little concerned about, so this area right here, like 6850 is a possible inflection point. So here's why I think you should keep an eye on it. I don't know what the gold is going to do. I think that the bulls in gold are going to want to try and hold it and try and push it back up, especially if we're going to get inflation. But the treasuries are getting interesting because the treasuries are really going to be at the heart of the rotation that we seem to be seeing. Hence, 2 points down in the 30-year treasury. Right? There's going to be opportunities in there if you're watching it and you understand the fundamentals behind it. Because the whole thing is, if you trade it every day, it can be real. Like, the treasuries are hard to trade because they're so efficient. Like, the best traders are trading the 30-year, right? So it's kind of hard to get it to do something stupid. Okay. Well, when you know days like today, when you know that there are some fundamentals that are going to move it, you can go and you can take those trades and you can just go short and just let it run. And it barely comes back against you. Like, seriously, this whole thing could have wrote it from 16.5 down to 10. Never went more than what? Well, I guess there was one, two, three, 4 ticks against you. When it's trending, they're amazing. So I know a lot of retail traders dismiss them. It is to their own detriment because in reality, the treasuries is the star, man. The E-mini gets all the attention, but it's the 10-year and the E-mini together, the two that I trade. They're the most popular for a reason. And when they really get moving, we always think, oh, well, they're boring. But when they get going, that's where the money is, friends. And not only that, but if you watch the treasuries and you ask yourself, well, why is the treasury moving today? And you go around and you find you're going to learn a lot more about the markets. That's the real reason to trade them for new guys. So what were you guys saying here about the institutional traders?
Tinchu says, how do you compete against institutional trades with all the tech and research behind them?
How do you compete with them in any instrument? So here's where I think that you have an edge over these guys. Is they're so big, they really cannot move all of that money all at once. Okay. And especially when there is a real macro reason for the instrument to be moving, if you understand what that macro reason is, you can get in right at the beginning of that trade and just ride the whole thing. And those can be very low risk, high reward, easy to make trades. They don't. The key is you just have to know when to get in, right? You have to know when there's a real significant market event happening. Because if you try and trade it every day, then or off of every little technical thing that you see, it's going to kind of be like, well, right? Also,
Smash the Bid says that treasuries are too complicated and nobody likes them.
so a lot of retail traders shy away from treasuries. This is another place where you can get an advantage over other market participants. It's really hard to have an outright advantage over the institutions. I mean, they probably understand what's going on better than I do, so that's an edge that they have over me, right? But I can have an edge over the other retail traders out there, right? And most retail traders think that the Treasury is too complicated for them, when the reality is that all you got to do is put the effort in to learn it. And now all of a sudden you have this huge edge over everybody else. Okay,
Vlad Stolyarov says looks like we formed day low in SPY and QQQ lower sell programs stop there. Vlad Stolyarov says early in morning. Tin Chu says a lot of trades are institutional hedges. Directions are not so straightforward.
No, but I knew out of the gate from today that our direction was down. I just didn't know a safe spot to take it. I really like looking back. So the thing is when the news came out on the inflation, I clicked it and I had it set up the wrong kind of order, so I didn't get filled. And then it was down a tick or two, and I was like, okay, so now it was like at where was it at? Oh man, it was 6:30. Yeah, it was like at it was at 16.5. So it was at 16.5, and I was like, well, I don't know if I can hit into 16, but I could have easily have done it because it just never did anything but go down from there. Now then. Yeah, what did you go long, ES? China-India border talks stall, sparking calls for Modi to get tough on Beijing. That's not a good thing. Oh, there's another little move up. Is the E-mini going to decide to move up on the day after all? So at this point, I want to repeat something that I had said earlier, which is that it seems to me that there is a market change happening, and that the majority of the market is clueless about it. So you're seeing some odd behavior because these retail guys that still have a pretty significant impact on the market are still trading these technical symptoms and buying the dip and stuff. But probably what's going to happen is they're going to buy Tesla and all of these other tech plays and go underwater. Then have to puke, possibly pushing them down further than they normally would. I wonder, I don't know. I'm thinking so could I outright go short some of these names? Maybe Tesla. Maybe you could go outright short on Tesla, but I'm not so sure about any of the other ones. And even with Tesla, you might want to be hedged against, because it doesn't look to me yet like the S&P 500 is just going to start turning down and go risk off. By the way, 15 likes today. Thank you guys so much. I hope I worked hard for it. Okay, so
Tin Chu says question about the ZB explanation. 1. How do you compare the price with the interest rate, which is the yield curve? 2.
Yeah.
Why should a steepened yield curve flatten back?
Okay, so for my purposes, for the scalping, I just don't even pay attention to the interest rate. I just know interest rates are always opposite to prices, right? So if the ZB went down the most, then that means that the 30-year yield went up the most. And if the 10-year went up lower, and that's how I do it. And then what is the trajectory of that? Steeper versus the opposite that we were having, where the 30-year would go up a ton and the 10 not so much and the 5 not so much, right? But then there's already a curve and then it's actually making it flatter. Let me draw that better. It's like this, but then the 30-year goes right. The 30-year goes up more, so the interest rate goes down more, like that. Flattener, right? Now, I wasn't saying that like when it gets steep or it gets flat that it should mean revert. I'm not sure what I said that might have led to that impression. What's happening right now is that there are concerns about, so this has to go back to the fundamental behind the trade. Central banks are really serious about creating some inflation now. And a lot of the things that are going on are deflationary in general, but for the very short term, it is inflationary. So you don't necessarily, if you wanted to play that there's going to be inflation, you don't necessarily want to do it over here. You want to do it over here. That's what causes the yield curve change. So that's why we could kind of say that it was going to steepen. Did I get that right? Did I explain that right? Problem with yield curve is that you kind of have to like flip it around in your head, and sometimes you can lose track of it in your temporary memory and get all confused. Shorting Tesla is a cardinal sin in all celestial religion. Elon Musk is an extraterrestrial godfather of humanity. So Salim, I went short. Here's what happened. I was like messing around with the simulator in Thinkorswim, and I'm like, well, I don't think that they're going to meet their earnings, so I went short. I picked a good price to do it from, and the options did expire in the money, is my understanding. And then I was like, okay, I guess I just let them expire now. Well, apparently I got executed, so now I'm short 100 shares of Tesla. But it's okay because they're at 1,400 today. So I don't know. Just drawing this out in my mind is like you already have a really flat yield curve. Yeah, so it was steepening. The 30-year went up more. So the new curve looks like this. It's getting steeper. But then overall the whole thing moved up as well. Because what you can have is they could move down and it still gets steeper. Yeah, it's a sim short in Thinkorswim. Yeah, it was 100. So it executed me 100 short at 1,500. So I'm like, okay, let's just go with it, even though that's not what was supposed to happen. Mm. Yeah, I think I gave that wrong explanation. You're getting inflation in the short term. Then what's happening is they're fleeing to the further end of the curve. It's like these guys over here are like, oh no, there's going to be inflation. That's really going to hurt us. Who's getting the Russian vaccine? Who wants the Russian vaccine? Do you want to get the Russian vaccine? Is that you? Putin's daughter? She wants the vaccine. I got you. Do you guys just a quick poll? Do you believe that Russians are pushing Q conspiracy theory? Yes or no? Do you think that Russia is pushing astroturfing Q stories? Or do you think that it's all organic and it's just the Q people are just crazy? I shouldn't say that. I think it's a conspiracy theory. Getting heat from some of my friends because I'm like, this is a conspiracy theory, and they're all conservative, and they're like, but you don't think that blah blah blah. Like, why would you care? It helps your party, right? I don't want to be helped if it's a conspiracy theory. That's a risk. That's like, that'll flip around on you. I know that's like a really out of left field question, but Futures Trader 71. Interesting to know. Fangman stocks overlaid on NQ since July 15. Fangman stocks converted to a market cap weighted index and put up against NQ on a percentage change basis at the open. The correlation is very clear. Yeah, okay. What's the conspiracy? The conspiracy is, the conspiracy is that Donald Trump is sorry, let me restart. The conspiracy theory is that global elites are pedophiles and are trying to oust Donald Trump from office because he is going after human trafficking. And Donald Trump knows this, and he has an advisors in the White House that are fighting the global cabal. And because they can't talk about it publicly on the news, they feed us clues through Donald Trump's speeches and posts on 4chan and so forth. That's the conspiracy theory. Foreign meddling is going to destroy the U.S. election. See, this is why I got a problem. Is like the conspiracy is the conspiracy itself. Like, here's the problem that you have with it is that I can't argue that there's not human trafficking, right? Because we know that there is. And we know that global elites are involved with it because we got this whole thing with Epstein. Although I would caution, just remember that the Epstein thing was with tweens, but not that that makes it any better. But I think that people have this picture of like 8-year-old children being snatched up, and that's just not the reality. So then if you sit down and you say this is all a conspiracy theory, then like I tell you, it's an armored conspiracy theory. If you reject the conspiracy theory, then you get attacked. So it's like nobody wants to step up to it publicly, just like people are kind of afraid to tell to stand up to Black Lives Matters publicly. It's the same thing. It's the blood of children adrenochrome. No. Okay. So this is another conspiracy theory, is that Hillary Clinton skinned the face off of a young 16-year-old girl and to create and that gets all of the adrenaline in their blood and everything, and then they kill the girl and drink her blood. Okay? If there was adrenaline in somebody's blood, you can't like absorb it that way. It's absolutely ridiculous. If global elites are doing that because they think that they get a high off of it, they're dumb because you can't absorb adrenaline that way. That is a conspiracy. That is like a straight up conspiracy. I've had friends talking about that on my Facebook. Had some medical professionals got involved. I did some my own research and stuff. I'm pretty confident that that one is just total bunk. Bro, people can do anything, right? Well, they do get blood transfusions. They do get, well, there might be something, there's something to stem cell therapy. Okay. Now that's something that probably does happen, although it's unclear how widespread that is. That you can get stem cell therapy to make you look younger, potentially. But how widespread that is, I don't know. That's still kind of an unconfirmed territory. But the thing that I say is a conspiracy theory is this whole thing that Donald Trump is like sending people coded signals, right? Well, the whole thing is silly because it's like so you got these Q guys that they're pushing a campaign right now about human trafficking, and you're like, guys, you realize that you're helping these guys build up like their social network and everything, right? So that they can, and potentially Russians, I don't know if they actually are, but let's just say that they are. If they are, then you're literally helping Russians build up a network that they can use to influence people for the election, right? I just might not be as harmless. I think that anytime that you're assisting conspiracy theories that are proven false, and this one about Donald Trump is proven false, okay? There's people that think, oh, we can use it to our political advantage. It's gonna blow up in your face, man. It's gonna blow up in your face. And I would exhort other Republicans to ignore this nonsense and keep the election focused on the things that matter. Okay, like that Democrats are like causing a huge spike in crime and ignoring rioting and basically revolutions in their own cities, and Democrats are basically holding back stimulus, much needed stimulus. These are the things that should really matter for the election. Or that on the coronavirus, that many Democrats far overstepped the science and pushed for policies that were way more oppressive than they needed to be, and hurt the economy. And the way that they manipulate, those should be the reasons those should be the things that should be affecting the election, not some conspiracy theory about human trafficking. Bothers me. You see, it's an armored conspiracy theory. How do you argue with this? You can't argue with it. If you point out to them that it's a conspiracy theory, then they're like, oh, you must be in with the pedophiles. No, I'm just a logical, fact-based person that can look at facts and see that these things aren't actually happening and that many of the claims have been conclusively proven false. Like the original Q post, it was a guy LARPing on 4chan, guys. Like they came out, it was a group of guys, it was a couple of guys. They shared the account. They all came clean. It was a hoax. Proven false. That doesn't make me anything. That just makes me a person that functions, that tries to function on logic. Armored conspiracy theories. Armored astroturfing. How do you deal with that? I cannot think of a single argument that would be convincing to these people. They use TikTok. Do you guys know? This is a funny one to me, to be honest. Like you're not gonna believe me. Okay. Conservatives have a stronger presence on TikTok than liberals do. No joke. I'm not kidding. there's liberals on there, and they definitely have their network, and the network for the liberals on there is very extreme. Like, these are like straight up Marxists, right? But if you look at the accounts, that because the people on the left are so far extreme, and the people that are on the right are pretty much just like, I'm an American and I like American values, and that's like their whole TikTok, right? And everybody loves American values. Like, the majority of Americans like American values, right? So the conservative TikTok accounts have more followers than the liberal ones on TikTok. The hashtags, the videos, the conservative ones do better on TikTok. But because some liberals on TikTok, and there's a lot of kids on TikTok, don't get me wrong, because the kids did that thing at the rally in Tulsa, everybody thinks that TikTok is part of this conspiracy against Donald Trump, and that it's an anathema to what conservatives want, and we should just get rid of it. But the reality is that TikTok is doing more to help Donald Trump than it is to hurt him right now. It's crazy, guys. And here's the other thing that's crazy about it, right? You literally cannot use that app and not run across the political stuff. And based on whether you watch that, if you like any you hear something, it's a political rant, and you agree with it, and most people will, and you like it, and even once, and you are in the circle, it goes, you're a Republican. We're going to send you other Republicans. Not even kidding. It is doing so much to spread the politics. Like, I thought that it was crazy on Facebook. It is like times 10 on TikTok. Is armored what they now call well-researched? No, it's not well-researched. It's false. It's armored because you can't argue against it without being accused. Right? So, like, let's go to the BLM example, okay? Chicago, yesterday, absolutely burned. Their whole nice shopping district got trashed. And this was because black youths were told a lie about an altercation between police and a black suspect. They were told that the police just gunned this guy down, when the reality was that he was somebody that had a warrant out and was running away from the police and pulled a gun on them and all that, right? Okay. Hysteria. It was a hysteria because these people were, riot, or a hysteria-induced riot. Okay. Now, if I come out and I say this is a hysteria-induced riot and that none of this stuff has any basis in reality, black people are not more likely to be killed by police, I will be called a racist. That's what people will say to you. You can't argue against it without being accused. That's why it's an armored conspiracy theory or an armored hysteria. You know what I mean? Well, let me read these comments. Oh, my thing is dead. It's time for me to get going. Salim says, I think corrupt people use social media to get Trump down. All I know is I love Trump. I don't care about Republican or Democrat. If Trump was a Democrat, I would vote Democrat. Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, I mean, the media definitely does that. But I mean, the thing is people try and do it against Democrats. It's just they haven't been very successful with it. The left kind of got a what is the word? They kind of dominated that industry and shoved all the conservatives out before the conservatives realized what was going on. Now, the other funny thing, though, is I'm seeing people that were literally like posting Occupy Democrats posts on Facebook, and now all of a sudden they're 100% Q. It's crazy. So not only is it like this armored conspiracy theory, but apparently is an extremely effective conspiracy theory that can turn dyed-in-the-world leftists into pro-Donald Trump conspiracy theorists. That's scary to me. And then just the whole thought that it might be astroturfing from Russians is like, oh my gosh, guys. Like, oh my gosh. Man, the Treasury went down again. So interesting. Like here, this whole time since I was like, oh, I'm giving up on it. And it went again. Squawk is saying something. A lot of conservative censorship has been. Yes, it has. Oh man, the way that some social networking has been treating it's not fair. It so bothers me. South Chicago is like a war zone. They have to do something. Anyways, fun stuff, guys. But I think we gotta go. Where do you think the treasuries are gonna land today, man? It's such an extreme move. I feel so lost. Like I know can go down, but I don't know how far. It could go all day. Like this is a big day. I feel dumb just because one of the best opportunities that you're going to get in treasuries this year, and I kind of just passed it up. But that's okay. It still made money today. We're good. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, stay profitable, friends.